So haere mai, Craig, from my Heart Place to your Heart Place to Heart Place Hospital podcast. I like to start the podcast with how I met you. So that came about, we were both on Reality Check Radio with Nat Cutler-Welsh. Yes. It was really interesting because Nat goes to me, have you met Craig? And he's in Mangawhai. And I'm like, no, I haven't met Craig. And so I listened to that recording, and the first thing you said, and it's on your bio too, was around your strongest childhood memory, and it really activated me because it was exactly the same as my strongest childhood memory. So I straight away I was like, I was going to listen. So I listened and totally resonated with what you said and reached out to you straight away. And quite quickly you came round. We had tea here at Heart Place Hospital. We also had another visitor here who's a birth doula. So it was a great conversation. And since then both of us have been on your table. I've just literally jumped off your table now. So we're going to show the podcast what that looks like.
As my days of a chiropractor, what I would have been looking for when I go to work with someone and adjust someone is an area of tension where the body is stuck, and then apply different forces into the body in order to create a change to bring the nervous system into coherence. What's different with the work we're doing now is that what I'm actually looking for is an area where there's available energy, an area that is freely flowing and moving, and I'm looking to have input into that area. So depending on how the body is patterning itself, where the musculoskeletal, the tonal patterns are going to determine what phase or pattern she's holding and how I may want to address that. So you're going to see me make a series of gentle contacts through the cervical spine and on the sacrum, and the body will use breath and movement to reorganize itself. This is a self-organizing system, it's self-healing. Everything it needs is already contained within it. What I'm doing is exchanging energy and information which reminds the system how to make that change. What you'll observe is two different types of waves moving through the body. If you think about a sound wave or light waves, waves carry information. So as I make the contact in one part of the body, that part of the body is going to take that energy and information and move it in the form of a wave up and down the spine in order to create change. So we should hopefully see that. Just as a disclaimer, I've worked on Jackie's nervous system 4 times up till now, so this is not her first time on the table. And so we have some basic to intermediate strategies already in play, and you will see her body respond to what I do. So I'm looking for the area where there's a richness of energy to create change with, and at the right depth. Make a very gentle contact. And just allow her system to process that. Jackie is very structured, so what you're seeing in the processing by her nervous system is quite a structured response. It's staccato-like. Depending on the depth of contact, the speed of contact, we elicit a different response from the system. While it looks like a very gentle contact, like tuning a musical instrument, it just needs a small refinement to turn the system on. Just going to get you to tuck and lift here a little, not the shoulders, just this vertebrae here. Just bring the head up. Just get in position. Yeah. Now, as I'm working with the system, I'm acknowledging that this is it's more than just a physical system. There's an energetic field around the body, and as I approach the body from different distances, it will respond to me in different ways. So you'll see when I go to make contacts that I'm coming in from a distance, depending how I want to influence the system. And right here, she's very alert to me in this energy field, this distance. And as I come down into the system and we compress that field, there's more available energy that the system can use to create change with. At this distance, the system is showing me that it has a lot of what we call optimizer available, which is the part of the nervous system that really seeks an opportunity, and it's blended with beyond the qualities beyond the mind, the soul, the universal spirit. These are all pieces of information that I'm gathering to figure out how to best serve the system. These are very basic contacts to help her system to find pieces of information and release it. For some people, there's going to be more wave if they're more behaviour orientated, or more of a sense or a feeling of the experience. Jackie's very structured, so we see this system processing information as a structure. I'll demonstrate one more contact, which is a more advanced contact now, which is going to take her into her emotional intelligence. And so I'm going to have a different type of contact here. Good, just a little lift. There. And what we're going to do now is just challenge the system a little. One more here. Just bring your attention to where my there we go. So there's a little bit more charge in this one. Keep your feet down on the table. Run that energy up your legs into this contact. There. Find a breath for me. So I have many tools in my tool belt, so to speak, whether I want a physical response, emotional, mental, whether it's more of an expansion. There's all these different qualities that I have to work with depending on what's appropriate for the individual. Ultimately, what I want to see is that their life starts to change. There's a phase of discovery where they have to discover what they've been avoiding, and then there's a transformation that occurs, allowing us to go beyond what we've previously been settling for in life, and reforming the relationships that we have with ourselves and with the environment. The work is very powerful, things are happening very quickly. What I'm observing is that somewhere between 0 and 6 visits for people at the moment, there's a major vibrational change. It's really opening people up and allowing them to start to reconnect to these processes that are already in place. None of what you've seen me do here is new. I'm not installing anything. The system to run that is already there. I'm just bringing it back to the surface and reminding it. And what we can observe now is that there's a real settling of the system. We're in a different energy state. No matter where you're watching the video right now, you should be feeling energetically that there's a shift in the energy field around you. All the parameters that I look for have dropped. And this is a more what we would call coherent system, more energy efficient. The different parts of her, the musculoskeletal, the neural system, the physical, emotional, mental, everything is now organising itself at a higher level. Okay, Jackie, are you ready? Share something.
Just again, like the fourth time, it was, I just feel much more expansion in my breath.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so, and then I just had a big download as well, so I was sort of searching for an emotional something, but there was no, it was a real peace, calmness,
Yep.
emotion.
Yep.
A massive expansion in my breath, like,
Yep.
when I first went on, I was like nervous, excited because I knew what I was in for. So I sort of had to prep myself for that. But then, as I came to the end of what I call a journey, I feel like I can, like, just a breath beyond any breath that I've ever been able to achieve.
Beautiful.
And then just this massive download of being. I mean, I know we're in a unique situation of having cameras, but being this conduit of being an opportunity for people to experience this.
Great.
From a woman, from a midlifer, from someone who's been in a traditional medical model for so much, like 4 decades of my life, and then being able to feel like even now I feel like a tree, like really grounded and knowing.
Yeah.
But my knowing is being an example and being an inspiration to others.
Great. So there's an integration within that as well, right?
Yeah.
It feels like we're more integrated within ourselves.
Yeah.
Where I see a lot of us being at the moment, especially people being drawn to the podcast we're doing and observing that demonstration, is that we're being drawn into more integrated practices now. So, there's a lot of really amazing specialists in the physical or mental or emotional field. What I believe the next step is that we have all of that integrated, the relationship, the business, the health, everything is working as one harmonic unit. And I felt we got that at the end there for you. It was like, I agree, there was a peace or a stillness that came in. It was very noticeable. It was quite expansive. Some people watching this will have experienced that energetic shift as well. The breath we know creates coherence, so it really just fine-tunes the system, like that last tuning of the guitar. It really just brings that note into harmony. So that was a really good example.
Yeah.
Your body moves in a very different way to most people.
Right.
Hence, you are a little different to most people. And so, the example for a lot of people watching may have been a little bit radical and eye-opening, but that's just how your system processes information. We've spoke before, and that if a Jackie without structure is probably not Jackie at her richest. And the minute I give that contact, the first thing your system does is takes it as a structure, and then it brings breath in behind it. So it has the structure and then the perception or the feeling or sense of what to do with that, and then off it goes.
Yeah.
We're starting to understand every one of us has an energetic nature.
Yeah.
What I'm doing, a lot of what I'm trying to do, especially in the early stages, is ascertain what is her current energetic nature, how is she organising herself, how effective is that? If we're seeing it not really working, we can change gears on that a little bit. But for now, we're seeing a lot of really beautiful change for you. You went through the honeymoon phase after that first visit, and then you hit the wall a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, that's what we're looking for. We want to see a system that's flexible and adaptable and creating change. Last thing I want to see is that it's stuck and we're having to hammer the same information and over again. Your system is not doing that.
No.
So exciting.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
So cool. And so I've just had this magical 4 weeks of experiencing your magic, and I love how you described yourself, an energetic integrator, which I totally agree. And I just, before I get you to tell us more, I just want to share your bio, which I think is just so cool. So one of your strongest childhood memories was lying in bed at night and experiencing spatial distortions. And you would see yourself from an enormous distance outside of your body and very minute in the context of your observer, which I thought was so cool. And so far from being afraid of this experience, you remember it being something that felt very natural. And we're going to dive into that because my experience of that was quite different. So your younger years were full of creation and you had a knack of winning and manifesting things. Tick, same as me, yeah, and things, but these skills went quite dark for you through your teenage years and adult years, and you shut down trying to fit into this world, and mostly unsuccessfully.
Yeah, it's safe to say that now.
Yeah. But after travelling the world for a couple of years, you found yourself back in New Zealand and at Chiropractic college, and with no real clue of why you were there. And your first philosophy class changed all that. So you followed that breadcrumb, and for the first time in your life, you heard the idea of a universal and innate intelligence. And something clicked in you, and parts of your life began to make sense, and you graduated as a chiropractor, but you never practiced as one, or the traditional methods of it. Something bigger was calling you to focus on the energetic system rather than the spine alone.
Correct.
And at this time, a breakaway chiropractic technique was being developed. Its primary focus was on the self-organising capacity of the human being. And what you saw in this process, called network spinal analysis, was a new level of human function. So from this foundation, the process of energetic integration has emerged, which transcends and includes all of your previous learnings. And this is where Orenda was born. And this is what's put us in this place, on this couch. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And so usually my first question really is asking people what's led them to this point, and you've described that beautifully in your bio, but I guess, if you can expand that more, that would be very cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was born in Christchurch, in a seaside town, and just really had, I guess, a traditional, normal, two sisters, two older sisters, mum and dad, everything was fairly stable. But, as I alluded to, something wasn't quite gelling there for me, and at some stage I broke out of that. The journey through chiropractic was also quite similar, because I was there and I was getting aspects of that worked really well for me, but there were things that didn't quite fit, they didn't quite gel. And so again, as I graduated, I broke out of that again. So there's been this pattern of going into environments and then breaking out of them. What's led me to where I am now is really just trusting and allowing the process to unfold through me. Again, as my formal training was really about being an authority and assessing and correcting a system. What I realised pretty quickly in my internship was that I couldn't correct a system. We needed that system to correct itself. And really then the journey was just along the lines of where do we find a tool or a technique or a capacity to do that. As you say, something that really switched on in me was the understanding that there's a universal intelligence that organises things. It's not random chaos. I'd never come across that, never thought about that before. In those days I didn't even know anything about my star sign. And so it was all fairly like a bit of a cold bucket of water in the face, but it really woke me up. And then I was on the quest, I guess, to find out more and more about that. Not just on the innate portion that we all have within ourselves, but also on what's really going on that bigger level. And of course, when you start to go down that pathway and ask those questions, it's a never-ending journey. You get comfortable at some stage with realising you may never have the complete answer while we're in this physical form, but more to be revealed when we transcend into something other than that. So it's been an amazing journey. It's been not without its crisis and its breakdown. To get to the level where I'm at now has really required me over multiple occasions to have massive loss in my life, whether it's a relationship or a financial situation or a health state. My leverage points have been through crisis, and that's where a lot of people are still making change from. This process of energetic integration is really to help people find a better way, to navigate some of those changes in a smoother way than you and I have had to do it. It's like we're bridging the gap, we're breaking down or cutting the path which allows maybe some of the masses, when they begin to move, to be a bit more graceful in their transformation than we have been.
Yes.
Of course, I wouldn't take any of it back, but I do realise now there's a more energy efficient way of doing that without blowing relationships up and putting yourself in poverty.
I love it. I love it. Totally resonate. So, and resonate with that concept of bridging. So again, me too. Like, I wouldn't take any of my experiences back and feel like I'm a wisdom keeper and like I said before, a conduit so that others can I guess, you know, like I talk about, I feel like I've been to the school of hard knocks in some respects, yeah. But the world's different, and now we're showing up and actually giving people, well, being lights at the top of the lighthouse, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's another, you know, there's a way, and it doesn't even have to, we don't even have to say it's different or alternative or there's a way, and if that light shines on you, then all cool, that's totally cool. I'm just really curious what it's been like. I call you a change maker, a chain breaker. What's that been like with your family and your colleagues and friends and society? How's that journey been for you?
Yeah, it's been complicated at times because as I was developing within myself, it was hard to define the lines at times. When you find a very profound model, it's you live through that model to some extent. That's not always the greatest thing to do, because it's hard to then have your romantic relationship over here and your friends over here, because you're viewing people through a lens of sorts, and you're receiving a lot of information, and you're able to understand and see patterns within people that they may not even be aware of yet. So it's been tricky at times. In my close relationship and with my family, I think I've held the vibration long enough now that there's been a merging towards that to some extent, which is, again, it's what you're saying with the lighthouse. We're at a point where people are starting to lift their head up out of the darkness and go, where do we go? And that requires us to be just strong enough, courageous enough, deliberate enough to continue to hold that truth within us for long enough that others can then merge towards that and find that path. So it's been tricky. It's been tricky at times, but I'm comfortable. I've learnt now how to position myself to be able to go in and still have those relationships and be. One of the big concepts is that we believe that humanity is going through a major developmental change right now. We're in it. I'm seeing enough evidence now to say we are in a change. And the first level of development within this new tier of being in the world is really about us being very flexible and fluid. So we have to learn how to be able to be in relationship with a wide range of people. We've got to be able to meet them where they're at, rather than be too guru-like and out of reach for a lot of people. So I think the art form, something I'm learning to do, is to continue to navigate that better and better and better and better. And I have people in my life that support me in that, and that trigger me in that at times to help give me the depth that I require. But yeah, it's been an interesting ride. People will look at their heads at me sometimes and shake it or not get it, or wonder what is his life like. It's the journey I signed up for. It is what it is, and it continues to unfold. It's magical. I wouldn't give it away, but I do understand, like, as a lighthouse, sometimes you're out on your own a little bit. In time, people start to congregate around that, and then it gets easier.
That's something that I've noticed with after working with you for these 5 sessions, is places and spaces that I was going to that was giving me a charge. I was finding there was no charge. So it was a beautiful, it's just, and it's something that I've wanted, like I desired not to be in activation and be triggered. And to be always learning and growing. Like, I wanted to be able to go into some spaces that I don't necessarily fit into, and because my longing is to belong, but I want to be able to go into places that I don't fit into and not get that charge, and that's something that I really have noticed.
I can feel that as you describe it right now. The early things I've been helping your nervous system to work with are to be able to find the resources from within, as opposed to needing to go somewhere for something outside of ourselves. It's already in here. And it's interesting because the contact into the emotional intelligence, which we just worked on before, is a strategy that allows you to be in a wider range of experiences without freaking out or getting over anxious or saying something silly and being reactive. Yeah. And so it's beautiful to hear you say that, because it's something I've been working on and targeting without you realizing it, and then for you to organically represent that back to me. So for a lot of us for a lot of us, what we've been programmed on some level to look outside of ourselves for solutions, and that's appropriate at a certain stage of healing. We get to a point where that's not enough, and something deeper within us is calling for more. And it really is about us holding ourselves in a certain way and going within and being more of our authentic version, or more of our whole self, so that we can then show up at a bigger level. Yeah. So I'm excited to hear that. I could tell and feel when you're sharing that with me that's profound. It's had an impact on you. So that's one of the benefits we're looking for. We're looking to see, qualifiable or tangible changes that you're articulating to me about your life. It's not just some like beautiful experience. We want more than that, or I want more than that. For you, because of the people that you serve. So again, it's like a win-win-win. This next level of development, there's no more competition. We're collaborating. Totally. And it's like, how can I bring her into more of her authenticity, because she has an influence on all these people around her, and I want that ripple down effect, because it's impossible for me to reach everyone. So this process, this energetic integration, realizes that if we bring one system or one unit into coherence, the ripple down effect of that is massive. And as we start getting more and more and more of those, we reach this critical mass. My illusion is we've met that mass already, and that's why a lot of people will be experiencing some upheaval in life. I've been observing a lot of physical, emotional, psychological breakdown, as that system that was bound in density and reaching outside of itself in desperation to feel validated, that system is now coming down. And what's birthed out of that is a much healthier, more courageous and integrated version of ourselves. But I was just talking to some practice members yesterday who were in after you, and my explanation to them was, and they're a little more elderly, is that we are a new version of ourselves is coming through. But this vessel, this physical dense container that holds that version of us, is needing to come into alignment. So there's a recalibration. There's a requirement for that system to vibrate at a higher level now. And as a result of that, people listening to this will notice that everything around us is a little bit more chaotic, and everything within us as well. And not to be panicked about that. Try to give yourself time to have the experience. You're being well supported, and it looks really beautiful on the other side of this if we can just allow ourselves to experience more and more of that whole self. That means going to the darkness a little bit sometimes and feeling the uncertainty and the instability of not being in control, which is what a lot of us are experiencing at the moment.
I say to a lot of people that our grandchildren will be saying to us in years to come, were you really living through that period? And so when I'm in my crunch, I'm like, I've still got to remember this bit, because I know my grandkids are going to be asking me. So it's kind of like, I feel like it's uncomfortable, but I also want to experience it so that I can share it in these generations to come. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we signed up for it, right? It's not by chance that, again, the people listening to the podcast and the people who are starting to shine their light, it's not random. There was some sort of a deal going on there. I sense that probably happens in every generation. If I look at not maybe my parents, but definitely my grandparents, my granddad went through the war. Like, I can't comprehend what that would look like, or even I can't even comprehend that in this day and age. Why would you go and put your life on the line for that? It's interesting. So I guess it's like these developmental stages that I talk about. We go through these developmental stages in order to transcend to the next level. What we're observing now, though, is that it's almost like we've walked up one ladder to the top rung, and there's nowhere else to go there, but there's another ladder next to it that we're going to start to climb. And a number of people are transitioning to that second type of ladder at the moment and starting to experience the same physical experience and the same reality, but like from a totally different viewpoint. And it's really liberating. We start to become aware that this exchange doesn't just stop in the physical field. There's a space between us right now that's full of energy and information, and it's abundant. Like everything we need right now for this physical reality is abundant all around us, more than you and I could ever use. And we're just starting to learn how to plug into that and how to live from more of a magical, extraordinary, unbound, energetic, synchronistic way, and learn to trust that, as opposed to having to come down into the density of the mind and say, oh, but hang on, you know, in order to be successful, I have to have the wife and the kids and the batch and all of these things in place. And we just, in my generation, we just don't see that for everyone. It's not looking that way. And again, they are the people who are here to disrupt the patterning. You know, a change agent or a change, whatever you may have said before.
Change maker.
Maker, yeah. Really, you know, we're a disruptive technology. So yourself, myself, definitely my partner Caroline, when we come vibration into people's spaces, we disrupt their patterning. And that can be uncomfortable sometimes. But again, that's part of who we are, and the world's going to need that for the opportunity that's in front of us. Anytime that there's about to be a major shift, and if you look into the world right now, every system is wobbling, there's got to be some instability. And if we can hold it together in that instability, there's massive opportunity. So some of us are realising now is the timing. You made a comment earlier as well, I think about the lighthouse, and that we're starting to turn our lights on, and I would agree with that, because I believe that the timing is right now for everything to line up. A lot of the healing or the work we've done up till now was prep work. It was all just preparing for us to now have the experience. And as you're seeing, even with that little that you shared before, you were able to be in an environment and have a richer experience of it. That's what I believe we're moving into next. And that's why people are feeling more, and it's more uncomfortable, or they're feeling a deep pattern of tension in their body, or something quite deep psychologically not right. Because now is the time for us to take all of the learning and actually start to implement that and live through it. And there's a gap for some people between here and here. And that gap is, I would go as far as to say, has now been closed. So whether people are enjoying the ride or not, everyone is now going through some sort of a vibrational change, and that will show up in some area of life. Yeah, it's beautiful, and I acknowledge that it's uncomfortable at the same time for people here.
Yeah, amazing.
Which brings us to your work, right?
Yes,
you know,
totally.
people in that front line, that field, are starting to have enough awareness to realise I need to stop. If I keep going, I break, and then we're of no use to anyone. So again, the work you're doing is right on the money, right where we want to be starting to see people in those frontline positions asking better questions of themselves, so they can perform at higher levels as well. They're all in those roles because there's something within them that draws them to it. But so many of them are working in such a low energy state, they're in survival. And you don't want your frontliner in survival. We want them to be thriving and in a really resourced, energetic state. So kudos to you for bringing that. And again, my belief is that you, me, people who are in these sorts of fields are going to become very busy very quickly in a very short space of time. So it's good for us to be getting the rest and preparing for go time.
Totally, Oh, thank you for that witness. You're right. When you are that lighthouse, you have that inner knowing, that innate wisdom, and I've definitely alchemised my pain into my purpose, and that is caring for the carer, and like you, like me, I believe huge majority of them had this inner knowing, have always had this inner knowing, but there was only one direction. So there was the conventional medicine, and so I believe we've got these kick-ass, powerhouse, magical people who, like you say, are in these environments that are just low energy, and they're not being able to awaken to their power. So that is Heart Place Hospital, is providing that soft land, because I know for me, when I had, I always call it my Mack truck moment, but lots of people call it their awakening, I did not feel there was any rainbows or unicorns at that time.
Absolutely.
And so it wasn't a soft land. It was very judged. It was like I was frightened, and then I was, when what I call the pass or the backdraft comes up, I was left on my own, and I just didn't have the resources. I didn't have the skills that I've now unfolded through doing all this healing work myself, to support that. Whereas that's where Heart Place Hospital comes in. We can, and integration is so important, you know, these powerful modalities, and then, you know, and I just so appreciated the second time I was on your table and you were like, you just said to me that you're no longer in honeymoon phase. And so I just had this beautiful preparation for the week of knowing that it was going to be crunchy, and it was crunchy, but I was able to, I've got you know, people in my life, and I was able to, I'm like, I've got the crunch. But I moved through it so much faster, knowing that it was coming, and also knowing what I know now, that what I'm like on the other side of a crunch. So I was really grateful for that, and this is the sort of soft lands that we can provide for those people. So in health, education, but really frontliners are those, like I talk about health and education a lot, really passionate about that, of course, because that's my journey, but people who are in retail or who are in all these other spaces where they're meeting and greeting people, they're frontline to our most vulnerable, and we can actually energy exchange and collectively do massive shifts. Yeah.
In society, I guess at the moment, everything is a front line, right?
Yeah,
because
totally.
there's so much instability in the culture wars, the judgment, the separation, that what we call polarity of, you know, separate and then turn on each other. It's everywhere. So any role where you're in front of someone, that's pretty much everyone in every area of life at the moment is being confronted. We're all on the front line. I think for a person like you, the reason the impact of those first couple of visits was profound is because you're being called up now. There is no you know, waiting for the next bus. It's like, it's time to get on. And again, people who are listening to this will also be feeling there's an urgency. My sense is that there's a massive amount of people going to be requiring help. So we have to organise ourselves. We have to do the groundwork now, so they have a path they can follow. But it's difficult for everyone out there at the moment, especially right now. Without going too deep into my model, one of the rhythms that we observe in people is a space or a timing where we need to discover the things we've been avoiding individually and collectively as a unit. And usually it's the very painful, uncomfortable stuff. And we've been in this phase, I would say, since at least Christmas. I've been in deep discover, where stuff we thought we'd addressed, we haven't addressed it. It's taking us deeper. And again, it's like the gift that keeps giving. And it just keeps taking us deeper and deeper and deeper to have a deeper, wider experience of what pain and suffering and frustration and judgment and polarity and being stuck, what that really feels like, because it's where humanity has been for quite some time. And now we're at the end point of having an opportunity to change that. So there's a pressure building, and again, we want to be compassionate and empathetic, but also accountable to people. The reason that your honeymoon was over in one visit was because, I guess on some level, I observed that we need you now. So maybe I could have left you there a little longer, right? But time is of the essence, and mostly what I'm doing is really following what your body is showing me. One of the beautiful things that I loved about stepping out of my traditional training into what I do now is that I don't have to figure out what to do. Your system shows me. It did take a long time for me to get the sensory acuity to really know where does it want me and where doesn't it, because for the most part we're more familiar with pain and dysfunction in life than we are with the subtleties of what's working. But now your body just reveals everything to me. And so when I ask you of your life experience and I take a little history off you, I'm really looking at what's her illusion of life, and then your body shows me the reality of what's going on below the surface, and then we go to work to try to bridge that gap and bring things to alignment. So it's magical times. We've been preparing for this. The information, really the models I'm working with, they're not new. They've been around for ages. What's different is that over the last 20-30 years we've started to see the modalities come into existence that can now fulfill that idea. So again, in my traditional chiropractic training, the philosophy blew me away, but the tools and the application left me wanting. I couldn't see how on a regular basis that approach could create that outcome that the philosophy promised. The philosophy suggested we're an innate intelligence that's designed to thrive in this environment. Yet, were we thriving through the way I was applying care? This process we're working with now, again, when I'm listening to you, I'm listening what's happening in her life, I know what your body's showing me, and I can get excited about that, and I do sometimes. At the end of last year, I got really excited about like what I was feeling was a core vibrational change in every system I was putting my hands on, and I didn't quite know what that. Well, I thought I knew what that was going to look like for people's lives. Now I know. It dumped us into discover. It dumped us into a low energy state. I was thinking, wow, everything's about to open up, and it was like, no, we're going to go deep into the mud here. But now again, I feel another vibrational change coming in, and so it's like, oh, I'm not as excited this time because I want to wait and see what direction it takes us in. But again, this is just the speed that things are happening with at the moment. Again, if I go back to providing a platform, energetic integration that really serves the people, we're going to need to see change happen rapidly for people. A lot of our models that we've been living through, the frontline models, especially in healthcare or even education, they're not organised in an energy efficient way. The amount of energy you have to put in to do those roles it's not energetically efficient. With this technique, what we're seeing is that once you get over that first hump, it is so user friendly. You don't have to be on the table every week, 2 times a week, 3 times a week. No way. You want to be out in life, living the expanded version of yourself, and every now and then I'm just tuning you in and turning the volume up a little bit, and off you go. When the masses start to move, we're going to need models like that so that we can actually change people very rapidly, very quickly, and for the most part, they're in life. Like, I can't change someone. All I can do is tune the system and give it the opportunity to position you in a new vibration, and then off you go. So, wind-up toys, mostly I'm winding the toy up and letting it go. It goes in the direction that it wants to. But my role on some level is provide energy for the system. The intelligence knows what to do with it. Stand back and watch the magic unfold and see how people's lives changed. So it's very, very exciting, and every time I get overexcited, I get taught a lesson.
I love it.
Which I'm cool with.
Totally.
The lessons are a bit smoother than they used to be. I think you said, mine was a crash landing. Multiple crash landings, right? And then it's like, okay, let's just try to pull the nose up a little bit next time, so we can land on the wheels at least.
No, I was definitely hit by a Mack truck. Amazing, and I mean, you've just nailed it all in that, and I always talk about how it's a monumental historical time, and I've literally got front row seats and I'm selling the popcorn.
Well, you're starring in the movie.
Totally. I'm here for it all. I just find it just literally blows my mind, and that we get to be here to witness it, pretty amazing, and that we can have this conversation and no one's going to cut our head off.
Well, I've had my head cut a few times, so
well,
again,
in this time anyway.
One of the people that I have taken a lot of inspiration from is a guy called Ken Wilber, and he worked on integral theory, and what they were looking at is the developmental psychologists started to map out a new level of development. They were saying that we don't even know what it looks like. It is such a radical shift that we can't even yet begin to fathom what society and life would look like if we go through this vibrational consciousness shift. I'm seeing, I categorically believe or know that I'm now seeing the vibrational change occurring. I'm hearing it, and it's different. It's a different way of looking at the world. You can see how it would solve a lot of our problems when the masses or the critical mass moves into this next level, because again, it's a collaboration. We understand that all of the rhythms and the experiences of life are valuable, so we're no longer trying to control life or control people in our life or situations in our lives. We realise that it's all there for our learning, and everything opens up then, because we are creators. And what most people, on some level, people will grasp that. I'm not sure if people really realise that the majority of what's determining the creation is their vibrational resonance. So you can be thinking something in your head and trying to reaffirm that as an affirmation, but if you're holding a low energy vibration, that's what the field is reading off. But once we come into alignment, we realise, when I drop a thought there, I just need to watch for it being reciprocated. And people are starting to see simultaneous manifestation. It's happening in the moment. It's even for some of us who are a bit more future orientated, it's happening before we realise it. And then it happens in real life when I just said this to Caroline today, something she's going through at the moment. It's like, yeah, the information's been dropping in for a while for you. Now something comes in that makes you realise, oh, all those things were already drawing me in this direction. And she was in a position to be able to trust and just allow that to unfold without rushing into it and trying to figure it out or control the experience, because this new state we're moving into, we're totally easy within ourselves. It's, again, at the end on the table there, you came into what I would call peace and a expanded state of stillness. There was an emptiness and connectedness, and that, if we operate from there, there is no threat. We are just resourceful, we're creators. If there's anything that is not working in our lives, we reorganise it. And that's one of our big themes, is that nothing to be released, nothing to be fixed. We're not broken. It's just a gentle reorganising into a deeper version of ourselves. And that's going to happen on all levels. As we go through that, physical's got to change. There'll be breakdown. Emotional is going to change. There's going to be a breakdown temporarily as we organise to a higher level. It's pretty predictable.
Just to kind of wind things up a little bit, I'd like to ask the guests kind of what's in your heart place right now that you want to share before we finish, and how can people find you?
At the moment, there's a calmness within me. There's a little bit of compassion for what's going on, but also a knowingness that we have to go here. Sometimes we can get a little bit over empathetic or compassionate with the story of people's lives. So there's an awareness that, for me, a big shift has already occurred. It's already occurred. Okay, I'm clear about that now. For probably the last 5 or 6 years, I've been writing and talking about a shift that was going to unfold. But that's unfolded. What we're trying to do now is figure out how do we play this new game of life. Because it does have a different set of behaviours and ways of observing the world, ways of being in relationship. And when you're operating from there, and the majority of people are operating from down here, there's a navigation phase where we've got to navigate. How do we meet these people? Where do we meet these people at? That new state is really about understanding there's more to life than the physical experience we're having. You know that. The circumstances that are plaguing us, there's more than that. And once we realise that, there's like a hunger. We just want to learn. We want to give more. We want to experience a richness or more, bigger purpose. And we start to realise that actually what's beyond this physical, some people will call it a third dimensional material reality, is something way greater than we've ever fathomed. But it's starting to reveal itself to us. So there's a trust in my heart, and also at the same time an understanding that it is uncomfortable. It's going to get uncomfortable. The pioneers have been here before. We are the people to navigate others through that, and we're coming into a position within ourselves where it's not about us anymore. It's a collaboration. It's a win-win-win. So that's where I feel we're going. What's going on for me? There's a lot going on for me. There's a lot going on in the background. Most of it I can't share at the moment because it's not quite in place yet. For the next 12 to 18 months, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for people to get involved. Is all I'll say at this stage. But there's a lot. It's like the bar has been raised for me, but it's not one rung. It's like we're going like 2 to 3 steps here, Craig, and at the same time I'm okay with that, because I'm also being given the information that you don't have to do it. You just follow, as you say, the breadcrumbs and let it unfold for you. A message that I would send to people is to try to take your time with the change. Often we want to rush through. The level of discovery and the experience and the emotional and the breakdown that people are being called to at the moment, don't rush your way through it. Okay, just give it the time. We're being well supported. There's a lot of changes that are going to happen in ourselves and our habits and behaviours, but there's going to be a lot of changes in our relationships as well. Just be embracing of that, because on the other side of that, the relationship is so rich that there are no things that can really break it down. The stories don't really matter anymore. We realise that's an energetic that's getting me to look at it that way. In a different energetic state, I look at it in a different way, and there's more opportunity. In another energetic state, it's a gift for me. It's just that most of us are stuck on one lens. and that at the moment is really being exposed in people. There's a power in focusing our attention, really consciously choosing what do I want to be a representation of. And again, as we step into this new version of ourselves, that really comes to the forefront. There's a deliberateness. It's very powerful. It's not being done out of ego. It's more about me being deliberate for myself, and then everyone feeds off that. So there's a real reclaiming of our power away from the external circumstances, no matter what it is out there that's pushing our buttons, to knowing that everything we need is in here. And for humanity to go to this next level, the people who are listening and who are on the front line, who have chosen that path, we're going to come into that pretty quickly. It's exciting times. It's very magical on the other side. I've seen things like glimpses of things happening for myself in my own life, and I've been hearing it in my practice members. That makes me think, if we get a large number of people here, we won't even recognise where we're at in a generation or two. Your grandchildren you're talking about, we can't comprehend yet what that could look like, but it will be radically different. There'll be a real redistribution of the energy, so to speak. So there's enough energy for everyone, whether that's from a food source or a water source or a resource source, whatever it is. At the moment, the system is top heavy, it's not serving. That is all going to reorganise, and there's going to be more than enough for all of us, and then we start to look at life in a very, very different way.
Amazing.
Pretty amazing. And time will tell, but we'll earmark or timestamp this and look back on it in time and assess and reflect on some of the things we're sharing here and look at, did that occur, or has that occurred, or where else has it taken us first?
I know, right? I'm like, I wasn't expecting that one.
Things change very rapidly at the moment, so what was true today may not be true tomorrow. And again, another really powerful thing for people as we wind up is that there will come a time where it's okay for us to reassess our value systems and to change them. Okay. A lot of us got programmed in a way where this is the way you live, and we haven't really reevaluated that to determine is it still appropriate. But again, the energetics around us at the moment are bringing us to that point of realising, you know what, that way of looking at the world doesn't work. It doesn't work for me, and it's really not working in many places. Maybe I can be an example or a conduit of looking at that in a different way. So we will become flexible and fluid, and that's, you know, a take-home message for people. Connect to your breath and become aware of what is your mind doing. What is the unconscious noise? Where is it focusing your attention? Are you in control, or is it in control? And start playing with that. Yeah.
So cool.
People can find me on Instagram. I'm learning how to do Instagram, so you know, it can be a bit of a comedy act sometimes. I also have offices where people can come and see me in person and have their nervous systems reorganised in Mangawhai and in Auckland. And so people will find me through the website as you go to. It's orenda.nz, orenda.nz, and reach out, have a look at the content there. You know, always interested in hearing your comments, what hit the spot in this conversation, and what people observe or experience in the demonstration that we're sharing.
Yeah, me too. I love that too. Thank you so much, Craig. It was amazing.